Welcome to the Harry Man Show, episode 67. Today we have guest Frank Fontsere. He is currently playing with the acclaimed band fronted by Chris Jericho of the band Fozzy. He's also been a member of Stuck Mojo. How you doing, Frank?
I'm well. How are you?
Great, man. I got to say that new single "SANE" is it's an earworm, man. That's like that thing's on heavy rotation on my playlist.
Oh, great. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm really happy with it myself.
Yeah, and that's getting heavy airplay in our Phoenix market as well, too, to let you know.
Oh, good. That's good to know. It seems to be doing well. It's been climbing the charts for a couple of weeks now, and more and more when we play it, people seem to be familiar with it. So yeah, we're all really happy with it. We're really thankful.
Yeah, like I said, that's a great song. So kind of dive into the Fozzy thing. What are you guys currently up to at the moment?
Well, we just finished a short tour of the U.S. I mean, mostly the Southeast and the Midwest, and we just finished. We just came home from the Jericho cruise, the rock and wrestling rager at sea, the triple whammy. So it's the third one.
Oh, I didn't know you guys did that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's well, I say we. It's Chris's thing. It's a rock and wrestling cruise, and Fozzy's the headlining band. But they do the wrestling out on the boat deck, and it's a lot of fun, and it's been great. We just did the third one. We had to postpone one, obviously, because of COVID. Would have happened last January, I think.
Yeah.
But the fourth one is going to be in March, so it's a shorter turnaround time this time. And I think probably going forward they'll be in March from now on. And then we're going to the UK at the end of November.
Awesome.
And then we'll see next year. We're putting dates together for next year, and the new album should be out sometime in the spring.
And is SANE on the new album, or is that on a previous album? That's where I kind of got confused.
No, SANE will be on the new record, and also the single that we released in 2019, which was Nowhere to Run, will also be on that record.
Nice. Now I know Fozzy is it's made up of members of Stuck Mojo, but how did you get kind of pulled into that project with Chris Jericho and all that?
Started around 19. Well, we met him in 1998 when Rich and I were touring with Stuck Mojo. We were on tour with Testament, and it might have been 97, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And Chris has always been a big metal fan, and the way he tells it, he was going to see Testament in Florida where we were playing, and a friend of his said, well, they got Stuck Mojo opening for him. You need to show up early to check them out. And he had never heard of us, and he saw us and really liked us. And, we were wrestling fans at the time, and had done a video that had a bunch of the wrestlers from WCW in it. And so there was a lot of cross promotion between Stuck Mojo and the WCW at the time. Mm-hmm. And so he thought that was kind of cool. And I think he just came backstage, and he had a name at the time, but he wasn't nearly as famous as he is now. Mm-hmm. And he came backstage, and we met him, and he was cool, and we became friends. He and Rich really bonded right away. And Rich had already done a project called Fozzie Osborne a while back that was just something for fun. Mm-hmm. With some fellow musicians in Atlanta doing, kind of a tribute to the old 80s metal aesthetic, with the long hair. Because, late 90s, that was like, it was as uncool as you could get, to do the long hair. And,
I still thought it was cool.
Yeah, and guitar solos. I mean, it's, according to the mainstream music, it was the new metal era. And so, to play like 80s music and stuff was considered uncool. And, but, they did it because they thought it was like, a fun kind of tribute to that era that we all grew up on. And so Fozzie Osborne had only done a couple of gigs. And when he mentioned that to Chris, just in passing, Chris said, well, that's cool, man. I'd like to actually sing for that. And, he said, sure. And so we ended up doing a couple of gigs as Fozzie Osborne, just as a lark, Mm-hmm. And, but we ended up getting offered a record deal, and we did 2 albums of our versions of like 80s metal standards, by like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Motley Crue and bands like that. And each album had a couple of original songs on it. And then in 2005, we just kind of made the decision to, drop the shtick, so to speak, and stop doing the covers and just be a serious band doing all original material. And so that's what we've been doing since 2005. There was like a hiatus right after that first record called All That Remains, and the band didn't put out another record until 2010. But ever since 2010, we've been working pretty steadily. We put out this will be like our 5th album since 2010.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we've had kind of a 2 to 2.5 year cycle between albums ever since 2010. So the band's actually been together for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's great. I mean, we're really fortunate to be in the position we are.
So when you guys kind of went through the songwriting process, obviously Chris has a very similar voice to Ozzy, which is a compliment in my opinion. Do you guys? How's the songwriting process? Where do you guys all kind of come with ideas, or your guitar player kind of lays it out for you guys?
Well, mostly Rich does the bulk of the writing, and he's been a songwriter for a long time. It was the same way in Stuck Mojo. It's the same way in Fozzy. And for the first several albums and several years, it was basically Rich wrote the music and Chris wrote the lyrics. And there was always contributions from other people. It wasn't a matter of, you play this and exactly this and don't deviate from it. It's not like, it's not like he wasn't open to ideas. If somebody had an idea that, is a good idea, he's all for it. And, he would write drum parts, but I'd go in and, most of the drum parts, were great. I would just kind of interpret them my own way because everybody plays things slightly differently.
Yeah. And I have to compliment you on your kick patterns. They're always like right on the it's a very Morgan Rose kind of feel to it. If that makes sense. Like I really enjoy your kick patterns.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And that, comes from having somebody like Rich writing riffs that kind of a lot of times make those patterns pretty, pretty obvious what they should be, when you have somebody who's writing, such great riffs.
Yeah.
And so that's the way it's been for years. And we just, back in 2015, when we did our Do You Want to Start a War record, we had a couple songs on the album written by Johnny Andrews, who's been a songwriter for a long time, and he's written a lot of songs with and for really big bands in the hard rock genre, 3 Days Grace, and he's worked with Hailstorm and a lot of bands like that. And he's had a string of #1 modern rock, hard rock charting songs. Mm-hmm. And he started writing with us and contributed 2 songs to the Do You Want to Start a War record. Mm-hmm. And he decided he wanted to get into being a producer. So, I'm not sure exactly how all the label stuff worked out because I'm not really privy to that, but we ended up being on Sony Music, and they wanted him to produce the Judas record, which he did. And so he and Rich wrote pretty much extensively together, and he was much more involved in the songwriting process on that album, and it worked out well. So the same thing with the record that'll be coming out in the spring that we've already recorded. It's basically musically a collaboration between Rich and Johnny, and Chris contributing lyrics, but Johnny's a great lyricist. So, when you've got somebody writing, amazing lyrics, you don't deviate from it too much. So,
yeah.
So it's really become the songwriting core of the band has really become Johnny, Rich, and Chris.
Nice. And I think it's starting to show now. I think you guys your best days are in front of you because, like I said, that single's blowing up everywhere I go. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear this new album. But I wanted to...
it's going to be really good. There's some really great material on it.
So I wanted to take it back a little bit. Obviously, you're a hard-hitting, great player. And I can kind of guess...
Thank you.
I can guess some of your influences, but I kind of want to ask how it started for you. Was it kind of a family thing or just something you saw and wanted to do?
No, it wasn't a family thing at all, really. I didn't have anybody in my family who played anything. Mm-hmm. I did come from somewhat of a creative background in my extended family. my father and mother's side, but I had a pretty kind of standard childhood. I didn't really have anybody specifically encouraging me to go into music when I was 10 years old. I mean, like their music was in my family in terms of my parents had their record collections and introduced me as a kid to music, particularly like the Beatles when I was really little.
Awesome.
Before I even really understood, what music was, I just liked what I heard,
I think they're the best intro for any child. I think for any child to hear, I think it's the best intro into music.
Yeah, it's a great foundation to just be absorbing Beatles music as a young child. You could certainly do worse.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and particularly these days, you could do worse. I discovered Kiss on my own when I was 10, and just saw them on television, and just changed my world. It was like I was like a lot of kids, like that's what I want to do. That just looks so amazing, and just something about. I started off on guitar actually, but I didn't really have much of an affinity to it. And when I tried to take guitar lessons, I just didn't take to it. And something about the drums spoke to me. And I asked, the parents for a drum kit for Christmas, and they were like, well, we gave you a guitar and you didn't really take to it. So let's see if we'll just get you a drum and see how you like it. And that's what they did. They just got me a snare drum on a stand, and I took right to it. As soon as I had the sticks in my hands, I just couldn't stop, beating around on this snare drum and, constantly. And in school, I was constantly being told by my teachers to stop, beating out rhythms on my desk, and,
yeah.
So I just took to it and, got a full kit, cheap, drum set for Christmas, but I was 10 years old. And, and it just started from there, and I just would, I set up in my room upstairs, and every day I got home from school, on went the records and the headphones and just playing along, and took lessons for, initially for a few months, but I really mostly was self-taught, just like, I got some of the very basics from the lessons, but then would just listen to records and hear, what Peter Criss was doing and try to imitate it. And then as I got older and kind of the 80s metal, stuff really started to get into that. It was Kiss, Van Halen, and AC/DC, though. That was the holy trinity when I was, in my, from like 10 to 13, those years.
And I obviously can hear it. I mean, as a huge So with that being said, did you kind of go through the big kit phase as well, too? Were you kind of doing the double kick right away and just trying to lump a lot of drums in, on stage?
Yeah, I started out with just a little 5-piece kit, and then, when it kind of got worn out, I moved up to another kit that was like some local store brand, which I probably should have never bought. I think they were made of fiberglass. That didn't last long, but God bless my dad, decided to kind of invest in, because they saw I was taking it seriously, and they thought, all right, well, let's get him an actually really good drum set. And my first actual like brand name really good kit was a Tama kit, and it was the Art Star line. This was like 1985.
Yes.
And it was when they just first emerged, and I had 2 kicks, I think like 12 and 13-inch mounted toms, and a 16-inch floor tom, and I saved up, and my first set of really good cymbals was a set of Paiste 2002s.
Nice.
And I just got like 4 20-inch crashes and 4 20-inch crashes, 2 20-inch Chinas, a 22-inch ride, and a set of 14-inch hats. And that was my cymbal setup. So I was really influenced by the Tommy Lee, Tommy Aldridge, 2 up, 2 down, cymbals mounted to the kick drum, straight up stand mounted to the kick drum, China's up high, that whole thing. That was my jam in the 80s,
Yeah, you go big or go home with that stuff, pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever have trouble kind of getting them to sound exact, the bass drums, or were they the same size or 2 different sizes, if you can remember?
I'm sorry, say again?
For as far as the bass drums, I know it's always been a challenge to kind of get them to sound exactly the same. Were you running the same size, or were they two different sizes? I know that was common back then.
Oh yeah, I never understood the whole different sizes. To me, it was like, if you're going to have double bass, it's like, your right foot should be your right foot shouldn't be different from your left foot, so it shouldn't. Yeah. So I was very into the symmetry of having two of the exact same drums. Cause to me, when you're doing a pattern on the kick drums, it's like doing a pattern. It's no different than doing a pattern on one drum with your hands, like a snare drum,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand the idea of, having two different size drums as something of like an effect. Yeah. But if you're doing like a drum beat that involves like 16th notes with the feet, I mean, in my mind, they should sound the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
If one's higher pitched than the other, you got that, it's like that doesn't really make sense. That's the sign of somebody who's not tuning their drums very well.
Yeah. So with that kind of setup, did you kind of bring that into the Suck Mojo stuff, or did you kind of slim down at that point?
When I very first joined the band, I still had that kit, mm-hmm. And was playing the double bass, that exact setup that I'd always been playing. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we were, I think the first time we played in Europe, we first went to Europe in '96 when I actually scaled down to one kick drum. And I remember Rich convinced me to do, and I was still playing kind of the two rack toms up top. Like I was playing basically the same setup, just minus a kick drum because, for the first tour we did, mm-hmm. we were sharing a kit with like 5 other bands and everybody had a different configuration. So to try to drag another kick drum along, particularly it wasn't really fashionable to have 2 kick drums, in 1996. So at one point he convinced me, he was like, Tommy Lee was always one of my favorite players, and he at the time was doing the classic one kick drum with the one mounted tom and the 2 floors. Mm-hmm. And Rich convinced me to try that setup, and I did, and it was strange at first, but I grew to really like it a lot. Yeah. And that became kind of my standard setup ever since then.
Yeah, you realize how much you're getting with the ride cymbal too when it's right in front of you as well.
Yeah, it's like now I really can't imagine having the ride cymbal kind of off to the side. Yeah, like a lot of guys do who have a lot of toms.
Yeah, and it gives the ride cymbal a chance to breathe. And a good ride cymbal can either break or make a band too. And my dad used to tell me that, but it's totally true.
Yeah, and so I'm not against the idea. Like we've done some tours recently in Fozzie where I had the double kicks. Mm-hmm. Like in 2015, I had a setup where I was playing 2 20 by 24 inch kicks and like a 1 12 inch tom up front, and it looked kind of weird to have such a small tom with the 2 big kick drums, but I liked it. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I always kind of want to go back to the double kick thing. But for now, I'm just using that kind of classic setup of the 5-piece setup, or I guess it would be 6-piece with a, 1 big kick drum, the 1 13-inch tom up front on a stand, and then the 2 floors. And, that's the setup that I've been used to for 20 years now.
Yeah. And I wanted to, that kind of brings up your YouTube channel. You have some awesome playthroughs as well in there too. How did you kind of just start filming yourself and posting those as you went?
Well, at the time I was playing with a band in Atlanta called Meddlesome, and they play in this club in Atlanta, and they do live karaoke where it's a live band, and basically it's like going to a karaoke night somewhere, except instead of picking a song and getting up and singing to a machine, you get up in front of band. And they called me one time. I'd known about it. I'd seen it. And they needed a drummer, and they called me, and I came in, and I ended up doing that gig off and on for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. And at the time I had one of those, I think it was called a Zoom camera that I bought, and it was just the way the club was set up. It was really convenient to just mount it right overhead. Mm-hmm. And I would just mount it overhead when we do the show. And when I was doing that show, this was from about 2009 through about 2015. It was like a 4-hour show. We would start at 10:30 at night and play till 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And we'd probably play 40 to 50 songs in a set. And so, I had a lot of material to pull from every night. And, I had seen people doing the whole YouTube drum covers thing. And I was like, well, I'm practically doing that, 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And so I just would set my camera up and I would record the whole show, and I'd look back and see, look back through which songs seemed to go well. And I got in the habit of posting them and was doing good about it. But then I stopped doing that gig, and the opportunity to kind of do the drum covers thing kind of fell away with that, because at the time I was living in an apartment and I didn't really have a place where I could set up and do that on my own.
Yeah.
So it was really convenient to do it when I had that gig. But once that gig went away, the opportunity to post all those videos it became harder to do, and I just kind of fell away from it. But I'd like to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see you do some with Fozzy as well when you guys are on the road. But anyone?
Yeah, I try to, and I've posted some stuff, along the same lines with Fozzy. But sometimes, with doing the show, you got so much to worry about. It's like now you got to worry about trying to find a place to set up a camera. And I've been diligent about it before, but I've gotten out of the habit. But I need to get back into the habit.
And for the people that aren't subscribed, it's Frank Plays Drums 1. Is that correct?
Well, that's the thing is when I set up the channel, I think I can't remember. It's been so long since I've monitored that channel that I think it's just Frank Plays Drums, and I think I had to set up the Frank Plays Drums 1 because somebody had a channel named that or something. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
No worries.
I would say this: if you're interested in subscribing, go to which one has more subscribers, and look up Frank Plays Drums and look up Frank Plays Drums 1.
There you go.
And if they're both my picture, look at which one has more subscribers and subscribe to that one.
Nice. Yeah, I'll post a link on it too. I'll see if I can find the right one for you. But
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit more your extracurricular stuff before I let you go. You're actually
Sure.
you also do bass drum art as well too.
Well, yeah, that's something I started doing a couple of years ago. I've always, in the back of my mind, considered doing art of some kind. I just never approached it. And I remember thinking, after a tour, I would have all these drum heads. And I thought about trying to, a lot of guys get online and, sell them autographed and stuff like that. And I thought I should do that. But I thought, well, I should do something a little more than just have a drum head with my signature on it. And I thought, well, maybe I'll try doing some paintings on them. And one day I just went, when I was at the store, I just went to the craft section and was like, just grab some paint and see what happens. And,
Nice.
and even though, a lot of them, some turned out well and some didn't. Any artist will tell you they have a lot more bad paintings than good ones,
Yeah.
But I really just enjoyed the process a lot. And I've been fortunate enough to do some that have sold. People have bought them from me. And I want to do more. And I want to do, not just, drum heads and cymbals, but I want to do, traditional canvases. And, I'd really love to make, visual art, a part of my life in addition to playing drums. And so it's just, with having a band and a family and everything else, it can be hard to find the time.
Oh, absolutely.
But I try to devote a little time to it, every week, even if it's just going down to the basement where I work and just doing a little bit, doing something rather than just waiting till I can do a lot,
Yeah. So when you do get up on that, what would be the best place to reach out and purchase those?
Well, the best thing would be to go to Instagram. You can either go to just Frank Fontsere, search Frank Fontsere and follow me on Instagram. And I also have another Instagram that's Frank Fontsere Art. And that's just the paintings that I've done. And I'm just, send me a direct message. If anybody sees something that they like and they're interested in it, just send me a direct message. That's the way I've been doing it. I'm hoping I'd love to one day have an e-commerce site devoted just to, selling my artworks. But, I'm still in the beginning phases of that. But, if anybody looks me up on Instagram and sees something they like, by all means, please.
And then if they want to look at your Instagram, what's the handle on that account?
It's just my name, Frank Fontsere.
Okay.
Either that, or I have another one that's just Frank Fontsere Art, where it's just pictures of like artworks I've done. And if anybody's interested in anything, just send me a direct message on Instagram.
All right. And one question I have, obviously we talked about your previous influences, but is there anyone you're going on the road with, you're seeing kind of up and coming, you'd like to give a shout out to check out?
Let me think.
I know that's kind of a surprise question, but I mean, is there any guys you've been touring with a while that you would recommend checking them out, what they've been doing?
We just, this tour that we just finished, we toured with a band called Through Fire, and another band called Royal Bliss, and we were with another band called Black Satellite. And all of those guys were great bands, and all their drummers were great. And I would definitely recommend to anybody checking those out.
Yeah, I'll check those out. But Frank, it was a great honor to have you on. I know you're a busy guy, as we talked before, but yeah, I'm really excited to hear this album. Do you know around what date is coming out in 2022?
Unfortunately, we don't have an exact release date. We're going to probably release another single, after we feel like SANE has, gone as far as it can go. The record company's going to want to release another single. And so my guess would be sometime in the spring of next year.
Nice.
But I can't say for sure.
All right. Yeah, I understand that. Well, Frank, once again, thank you. I'd like to catch up with you later this coming year and see what's going on with you as well again, but thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Yeah.